I would like to remind all participants that this event will be recorded for those that could not attend and also for future viewing. All participants this evening will be muted during our presentation portion, but we hope to have time at the end for questions with our regional directors. Please do not hesitate to place your questions in the chat box so they may be answered this evening or addressed later on following this evening if we run out of time. Now I would like to introduce our host for this evening, a tireless advocate for Iowa's childcare providers, families, and children, my director and the Director of Childcare Resource and Referral of Northeast Iowa, Mary Jansen.
Thank you, Esty. And hey, welcome everyone. We're so excited to see you. And we're so glad that you could join us tonight. We're going to go through just a quick little introduction, and then we're going to hear from some really great speakers. So we appreciate everyone's attention, and we just appreciate you being here. So who is Childcare Resource and Referral? We're agencies across the state that are funded through the Iowa Department of Human Services, and that funding is provided through the Child Development Block Grant, that the money that flows down from the federal government. We also partner alongside of Early Childhood Iowa in the state and support local services throughout the state. Our services and agencies are community-based, so you will see many of our agencies tucked away in different parts of the state. So our agencies there are 5 across the state, and we are staffed by early child care and education professionals that work to connect families with quality child care services. We support child care programs to meet regulations, and we also work to improve the quality of care and offer professional opportunities across the state. We also work to build the supply and demand of childcare options in communities and collect data that impact local decisions and solutions to childcare needs. We collaborate with community partners on childcare solutions. So our mission at Iowa Childcare Resource and Referral is to provide resources, education, and advocacy to support quality childcare, and CCR&R is committed to ensure that Iowa's vision is met. And our vision, of course, in the state is that all children, beginning at birth, will be healthy and successful. We hope that tonight you walk away with the understanding of the importance of childcare, hear from local members of our communities, and also understand the importance of childcare to our families, communities, and businesses across the state. So let's dive in. First up, we're going to hear from the Council for Strong America. So if you're wondering who this group of wonderful people are, the Council for Strong America is a national nonprofit headquartered in Washington, D.C., comprised of distinct membership organizations, including Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, Ready Nation, and Mission Readiness. Tonight, you're going to hear a brief video message spotlighting unique member voices of a police chief, a business leader, and a retired Army general who discussed the impact of early childhood on public safety, workforce development, and the economy, as well as national security. But the really fun part about these 3 gentlemen is that they're Iowa natives.
Hello, my name is Mike Tupper, and I'm the police chief for the city of Marshalltown here in Marshalltown, Iowa. Having been in law enforcement for 28 years, I have known for a while that there is a connection between high quality early childhood education and crime avoidance later in life. Research has backed up this point time and time again. Children from disadvantaged, low-income families who have access to high-quality early learning programs are more likely to succeed in school and less likely to commit crimes as adults than similar kids who don't have access to these important programs. Why is this? Because programs like these prepare kids to be successful in school and increase the likelihood they will graduate from high school on time, which is important from a public safety perspective, as 6 out of 10 prisoners nationwide do not have a high school diploma. Kids who have positive, supportive, educational experiences as young learners get a foundation of skills that will help them inside and outside the classroom. Not only do they begin to learn vital academic skills, such as early math and literacy, but they also learn skills like cooperation and sharing that improve their ability to interact with other people in a constructive and healthy way. And what I can tell you from experience is that it's important to get kids as early as possible. Putting them on the right path as they're just beginning school is an important step in keeping them away from crime as they grow up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Denny Linderbaum, President and Chief Operating Officer of Unity Point Health Des Moines Foundation. Early childhood education and care are critical to both current and future workforce development, supporting working parents now while helping prepare children to succeed in the future. Childcare challenges like access, affordability, and quality persist, but these are unprecedented times that we live in. Last year, the national business group Ready Nation released a report showing lack of access to childcare for infants and toddlers alone costs the U.S. economy $57 billion a year. Operating in the healthcare space, I can honestly say that the global health pandemic has only compounded this issue, hurting working families, employers, and child care providers. The crisis in Iowa is real and impacts industry sectors across rural and urban areas. Stabilizing the entire child care sector, including support for all providers, will be key to our economic recovery. Thank you for listening.
My name is Bob Felderman. I'm a retired Army Brigadier General, having served almost 36 years. I had enlisted time in the Air Force and the Army, and then I was commissioned in 1977 and spent most of my time in aviation. I am a member of Mission Readiness, a national security organization of 750 retired admirals and generals. We support smart investments in America's children to help ensure that they are ready to succeed academically, stay physically fit, and abide by the law. Mission Readiness supports programs that increase children's access to high-quality early care and education programs. These programs help ensure that children get off to a strong start in life and are prepared for academic success. Additionally, they can help prepare young people to live healthy lives and prevent later behavioral issues. These programs are critical to ensuring that all young people are prepared to succeed and are eligible for military service if they choose to take the path.
Thank you for that video, and thank you to the Council for a Strong America and its members for joining us today to share their message and the importance of quality early learning environments. So let's dive into a little bit about CCR&R services and what's been happening across the state. As you know, our work has changed in a way to more focus on providers in the pandemic since March of 2020. So this slide just shows a little bit of data and a lot of the work that our consultants and our staff are doing across the state, which I know I speak for all the regional directors when I really compliment and honored to work across the state with these staff. They are passionate, and just this data alone just shows their passion and commitment to our mission. So within CCR&R, we do have an emergency preparedness program. And within that program, we work with providers to think about their protocol, their policies, their procedures, and how we prepare them in case there is a national disaster or if there's a storm or anything. So since March of this past year, our staff have made over 11,507 responses in just emergency preparedness concerns. Much of this is around the COVID pandemic, many other pieces, derecho, a lot of things that have just hit our state. So this number alone just shows the strong need for our services and our consultation. Training, we've offered over 699 online professional development hours since March, and that's across the state. So if you think about those hours and just the commitment to plan that, each region has training specialists that are dedicated to this work, and their work has shifted to go from face-to-face trainings to now thinking about online professional trainings and how we can serve our providers to continue to meet those hours. Virtual visits. Prior to March, as you can imagine, we were out in the field visiting providers, giving them the support that they need in their day-to-day world. And since then, we've had to shift our work again. So 307 virtual visits have been completed with childcare programs since July and until October 30th. And then drop and dash supplies. This is one of the most unique pieces that we've had to do in the last several months. We've had several supply deliveries, and meaning that they drop at the door and they have then turned around to leave. But within these deliveries, we've delivered thermometers, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies, gloves, and more. And a special thank you to the Department of Human Services for supplying additional funding to support these needs. Next, we're going to hear from some Iowans, and we're going to hear some stories from the field. So we're going to hear some really strong messages on how Iowans have approached the childcare crisis, but also how they've changed their thoughts since the COVID pandemic. So we will go ahead and watch this video.
For home providers, we don't really have a big support system. So when everything started happening with COVID and you start to wonder, how can I protect the kids in my care? How can I make sure my doors stay open? How can I get supplies, make sure my supplies last? CCR&R really swooped in for that support system. They were sending texts and emails and calling to check in, seeing what we needed, what they could help with, what kinds of things they could get to us. They were doing door drops with thermometers and hand sanitizers, and really making sure that we had the resources that we could, making sure that we understood what resources were available to us. And taking the time to do online meetings to answer our questions about DHS guidance and the different programs that were being rolled out to support us during COVID. They really became that support system that especially home providers usually lack. And I'm so grateful that they were there during this time. They were really indispensable, especially for answering questions as far as, where do we go from here? How do we stay open? My CCR&R consultants were right there to answer my questions and answer my phone calls, and to help in absolutely every way they could. And I'm so thankful for them in all of this.
Hi, my name is Chris LaFurla with the Council Bluffs Schools Foundation here in Council Bluffs. When COVID hit our community, our schools were forced to close in March along with several childcare programs. And it was at that time that we realized we really needed to come together and find some creative ways to provide childcare options for our essential workers who were needed at the front line. And that really woke us up to the fact that childcare is a critical and essential part of our community, and most families cannot function properly without it.
Hi, my name is Jen, and I'm the Regional Training Specialist for Childcare Resource and Referral with Northeast Iowa. Many may not know that Iowa's childcare providers must maintain a certain amount of continued education to stay a registered home provider or a childcare center staff. To ensure that our childcare programs continue caring for Iowa's families, it's my job to make sure that our childcare providers have continued education opportunities through our childcare resource and referral trainings. In the past, these face-to-face trainings have been a way to not just increase their education, but also a way for them to learn, network, and connect with those in the childcare world. When COVID-19 hit, our work and the work of our providers rapidly changed. I'm proud at how swift we were able to respond, adjust, and to find a way to continue to meet the needs of our childcare providers. There was no option to fail for us. We needed to get creative. As the pandemic continues, we have aligned our trainings to be offered on virtual platforms, and we're looking forward to the day when our face-to-face trainings can be readily available. If COVID-19 has taught us one thing in the childcare field, it's been that the work that we do has never been more important, and that it is essential for all of us in Iowa to come together to ensure that we get creative in how we support our childcare providers.
Hello, my name is Micah Gearhart, and I am the elementary and middle school principal for North Fayette Valley at Valley Campus, which is in Fayette County. Our county, like many others, are struggling to find affordable, reliable, and safe childcare options. Currently in Fayette County, we have 3.8 children for every one available childcare spot. In essence, we are a childcare desert. In December of 2018, the communities of Elgin and Claremont were notified that one of our trusted daycare providers was going to retire at the end of the year. Shortly after, a second trusted daycare provider decided to take a position outside of childcare. At that time, a group of community members began to organize to help bring in-home providers to our area. However, after 5 months without a possible lead, the organization approached Valley Preschool to see if they'd be interested in expanding their services to include birth to 5 years old. In May 2019, the Valley Preschool Board approved moving forward with expanding their license. The board explored several options, including building and renovating area businesses and houses. However, they found themselves spinning their wheels. At that time, they were able to connect with Childcare Resource and Referral and the Iowa Women's Foundation, who helped them organize and create a vision for a childcare shortage in our area.
All right, thank you so much. That is a great video, just highlighting some great stories from the field. So let's dive into some more data. We're going to talk a little bit about a workforce issue. On your screen in front of you, you have 3 data points, but also what you need to know is that there are reports that are supporting these data points. And those reports are going to be sent to you after tonight's meeting. So you'll receive an email from us with these reports, and I encourage you to really read through these 3 reports because they give such great information and really showcase what's happening. So first, one of the pieces that we know, and which is hard to hear, is that Iowa parents are losing over $241 million in annual earnings that can be attributed to childcare shortages. Much of this report, you're going to see that families are missing work due to the lack of childcare that we're seeing across the state, the lack of dependable childcare, but also just hours that meet the needs for their working schedule. We also see that 481 cities across this state are in a childcare desert. So this data is shown, and we know that we have fewer spaces available than what we do children. And we do have some really great data that points directly to each county. So we can send that data to you that will show you directly what's happening within the area that you serve. And then also the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, absences and employee turnover costs are at $781 million per year. And you're going to read within that report the data that the U.S. Chamber has done, and just some really great facts to back that up. So this workforce issue really leads into a great conversation about partnership and how we've really shifted our work within the last several years. And I can't say this enough. This is everyone that knows me knows this is a huge part of my work right here is partnerships and building these relationships. But I know I speak again for all of the regional directors across the state when I say our work has really shifted since we formed these really strong and great partnerships. We know that because of economic loss due to the lack of childcare in Iowa, that our work with the partners are so important. But what's also we've seen is that some really cool coalitions and some groups have been formed as well to address local initiatives. And some of those are listed here on your screen. So one is the Black Hawk Childcare Coalition. You're going to hear a little bit more about that in a little bit, but that's also one of the coalitions that was formed here locally in Northeast Iowa that's addressing the childcare issues. And we've had much success, and we continue to just go day by day and address issues and work alongside our community partners. Hamilton County Recruitment Program, the Iowa Women's Foundation, those are both great programs just to look. The Iowa Women's Foundation, I can't say enough about because we've really formed a partnership, strong partnership with them in the last 2 years. Dawn's on our meeting tonight, but just since we've formed that partnership, we've connected with some great people across the state and communities. And our Early Childhood Iowa partners have also provided funding, resources, but also sat at the table as we've addressed these issues. And then Childcare Ready. I think we could provide a whole night just on this initiative that has started in the state within the last year. And to give you a quick glimpse of what Childcare Ready is, this is really a fast track, a training that supports new childcare providers as they're entering the field to for us to run to support them and with some training opportunities and give them some support as they head into that workforce. And our partners at the Iowa Women's Foundation have worked alongside of us to support this. We've implemented this program within the last few months across the state, and also received a grant from the Iowa Women's Foundation to support this program. So these partnerships all go really well into our next speaker, and he's here tonight. And I get the honor of introducing Dan Levi, who is an architect here in Cedar Falls. He's also the owner of Levi Architecture in Cedar Falls. I have the honor every day to work alongside of this cyclone, and you'll see his background tonight on Zoom. I begged him to change it, but he refused. But we have the honor to work alongside of him every single day in communities. Dan is also on the board for Exceptional Persons here in Waterloo that houses the Childcare Resource and Referral contract. So his work with childcare has been many years, over 18 years, just understanding the childcare world. He also, I will say his passion for childcare is what's led him to be one of our biggest advocates. So we don't tell him enough how much we appreciate his guidance, his knowledge, and his support. And tonight we're going to hear from Dan. We're going to hear some stories from the field and also hear what his experience is with working with communities. So with that, we welcome Dan Levi.
Thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate it. I appreciate being asked to speak. We regularly get to travel the state, Mary and I do, with some volunteerism through the Blackhawk County Child Care Coalition. And we hear the same story over and over. The previous slide Mary had shown about the lost income, about from businesses and from families, is the same story we hear in every community that we are in, which is over 24 communities just in the state of Iowa, helping communities research or do feasibility studies or do town hall meetings to try to figure out how are they going to solve childcare crisis in their specific community with their specific needs. And every community is different. They have different challenges within the similarities that we talked about. There's always nuanced differences, and they have different opportunities to solve those challenges. What we see almost in every single project is that collaborations and partnerships almost always make the project either happen or better than it might have been otherwise. So some fantastic examples of collaborations is CCR&R, is the Iowa Women's Foundation, and ECI. In varying degrees on every project we've been involved in, one or usually more of those entities are involved, and they are doing incredible work getting out the word. That they have resources, that they can be a repository for information and data that can help garner private businesses to come in as partnerships, funding sources, all of these fantastic items that are available through the state and through the private businesses in the area to make these projects happen. Some really exciting examples include the Learning Center in Charles City, very close to my home of Nashua. The school district has partnered with an existing center in such a way that we had not seen before. The superintendent is incredibly progressive. All he can talk about is that he understands that his school district, in order to grow, needs that feeder of the early childhood center. And what it does is he sees the kids that are coming from the center into his school district being more prepared for the regular schoolwork than had they not been at the center, because it's licensed, because it's regulated, because they're doing all of the exceptional work that these frontline workers do with all of our children on a daily basis. So it's an incredible partnership in terms of program, in terms of dollars, and just cooperation with each other, trying to leverage each other's resources and opportunities to cover each other's challenges. The Little Wildcat Center in Glidden is a different kind of collaboration with being funded through Community Development Block Grant. We're coordinating with the CCR&R, talking to DHS early on, and then mostly it's a grassroots effort. This is a very, very small town, and they are going to create something that's going to be fantastic from all the volunteerism and all the collaboration that they have just from private citizens in their community, and reaching out to the private sector, these businesses, manufacturers that see this problem every day of how childcare affects their attendance rate and what that does for their productivity, what it does on that high turnover for the culture of their company, and the lack of quality or the declining quality that they may have because they have an incredible turnover. And lastly, Cedar Valley Kids. This is a project that Mary and I have been working on for quite some time. It's in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, in the Cedar Valley. It is an incredible opportunity of partnerships between University of Northern Iowa, Hawkeye Community College, Western Home Communities, and VGM. The city of Waterloo, the city of Cedar Falls, both are interested in finding ways that they can partner with this incredible group of individuals that's come together to partner to really attack what we have in the Cedar Valley, where my office is over a 2,000 child gap between the number of kids looking for childcare and the available slots of licensed, safe childcare opportunities. Also, Micah was on earlier, another incredible opportunity. We had an opportunity to work with Esty through Micah And it was a great opportunity to discuss with them what opportunities could we create in their own facility to help solve this immediate problem that they had. They have teachers driving 45 minutes one way. They live in town, teachers, and they'll drive 45 minutes one way, drop their child off to a licensed center, turn around and come back to school. At the end of the day, they drive 45 minutes, pick up their child and come back. I mean, these are things that moms and dads are dealing with on a daily basis, that employers deal with on a daily basis, with turnover, with lack of attendance, with disgruntled employees, with employees that don't understand why they have to go through this. And it's really difficult, and we're seeing it, and the private sector is getting involved and the word's getting out. And that entirely has to do with CCR&R, the Iowa Women's Foundation, and ECI, getting that word out to the private sector to include them as an incredible partner on a bigger scale, and not just at the community level.
Thanks, Dan. Hey, we have some time. We do have a question from Representative Stechmann. What does the Charles City Superintendent do to help early childhood? Do you want to tackle that question now?
Yeah, absolutely. So they have a school, a middle school that they had abandoned with some expansion that they had on their main campus. So rather than having remote schools throughout the city of Charles City, they're really consolidated to a single location. So they've sold half the building to a developer to create some condos, and they had a remaining 1970s piece. So they're actually going to lease this building, which will have a lot more square footage, which will allow the center, the TLC, to expand. They're going to increase their capacity by at least 50%. Mary, I don't remember all the numbers as we go through those that work, but it's going to help increase their capacity by 50% at least. And then with the opportunity to purchase the building, while they take care of some infrastructure in a building that's somewhat dilapidated in some areas, they're going to have to spend this money anyway. So they're going to do that. They're going to lease this at an incredible rate of $1 a year, with the opportunity for the school or for the TLC to then purchase the building. It includes a gymnasium. The school district's going to be able to lease back the gym space, so the kids can use it during the day, and then the desperately needed gymnasium space that the school needs for practices at nights and tournaments on weekends, they're then going to lease that back from the TLC as a small opportunity for them to raise a few more dollars on top of an incredible opportunity to rent and eventually purchase that building.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I would just add in, I think he's one of the biggest advocates for that project. Oh,
without doubt, he is helping drive that project, because he has said repeatedly, he understands that early childhood for the schools is the feeder to them. They need that. Not only do they need the kids, but he knows what it does to the population of small town Iowa. Affordable housing and childcare. If you don't have those in your small community, you are going to suffer. And so they need that, because they need moms and dads. They need young people moving. They need teachers, typically younger. They're going to either have kids or they're going to have kids. And he has teachers. Hey, I love this place. Great. What's your childcare situation in town? You don't have any, or you have very little. Yeah, I may not want that job. He's had people turned down because they didn't have enough. So he has a lot of motivation between new employees, existing employees, and then young people feeding his school district. And again, the young people coming into his school district, having gone through that licensed childcare center, are more well prepared for the educational process.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, Dan. We appreciate you, even though your background is not, you're getting a lot of comments in the comment box about Go Cyclones, but we're just gonna let that slide. So next up, we're gonna hear from Senator Joni Ernst, and she could not join us tonight, but I do know that one of her staff is on with us tonight, Tyler, and works very closely with us and is a great support. But we're gonna hear from Joni. We're gonna hear about some things that she's working on. We also just want to show our appreciation to her as well for being a huge advocate for childcare and working alongside of us and hearing the stories from the field. So let's quick watch this video.
Hi, everyone. This is Senator Joni Ernst. While I'm sorry I can't be with you all today, I'm honored to share a few words. First off, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for all you do for our working families across the state. Folks, there is no doubt about it. COVID-19 has impacted everyone. That's why throughout this pandemic, I've continued to listen to and hear from folks in all corners of the state. One key issue I've heard about from folks, and something I've worked on for a long time, is supporting our child care providers and the families that rely on these essential workers. Even before COVID-19, Iowa was facing a child care crisis, and the pandemic has made matters worse. Child care programs operate on a very tight margin, and the pandemic has led to significant decline in revenue while also adding expenses. Through the CARES Act, I worked across the aisle to help secure aid for our child care community and to help cover some of the costs of care for our essential workers. As a member of the Senate Small Business Committee, I fought to ensure that our child care providers could access the Paycheck Protection Program. With the unpredictability of this virus and its impact on work and school, it's critical we provide additional support for these essential caregivers and their employees. That's why I've proposed the Back to Work Child Care Grants Act of 2020. This will help support families getting back on their feet and parents going back to work by providing critical resources to help child care centers reopen and make it through this crisis. This bill includes 9 months of financial assistance for providers to stabilize the child care industry. It also requires all providers receiving assistance to follow state and local health and safety guidelines and helps them acquire PPE and other equipment and supplies necessary to comply with safety measures, ensuring our children are cared for in a safe environment. Folks, this support is desperately needed. Just recently, a report showed that half of the licensed child care centers in Iowa closed between January and July. Without more assistance, many child care providers will be forced to close their doors permanently. Access to quality, affordable child care is essential to our recovery from COVID-19, and it's time for Congress to act. I'll continue pushing my colleagues to do so. Working families in Iowa and across the country are counting on it.
Thank you. And thank you to Senator Ernst for all of her support during this time. We also have Tyler here just to, if we do have any questions that are directed towards her, not to put Tyler on the spot, sorry, just put on her advocacy and her bills that are in process. I do want to open up now for some question and answers. We've got some additional time, and I know we have a few that are in the chat box that we will go ahead and talk about. We also have the 5 regional directors here alongside. So if there is a question that's specific to your part of the state, you're in luck because all of these lovely ladies are here tonight and they can answer the questions as needed. We also have Dan sticking around because I'm sure you have lots of questions for him. So let's go ahead and open up for question and answers. I know Representative Williams has a question I believe this is for you, Dan. You've been doing some great work consulting with communities wanting to construct a new child care facility. Have you been working with other communities that want to remodel, convert existing facilities?
Yeah. Typically when we go into a community, if we get a phone call or we get a tip that somebody might be looking for a childcare assistance, our firm provides a really wide variety of assistance, not only architectural work, but helping with organize community meetings, pro formas, business plans, really feasibility studies as to what are their real challenges that we can document, what are their opportunities. And a lot of times we'll get in and there is opportunity for potential remodels. They can get very difficult. Unfortunately, the childcare industry is so fantastically complex. It's unlike any other industry that we work on as an architect. The physical plant requirements are so incredibly daunting. They're completely different from an office or a school even. They're just really complex, as everyone in the industry knows. And so a lot of times we really struggle to be able to do good conversions that are cost effective, but we do those studies and we look at these building stock that they have. And yeah, we have a lot of people that says, I can get this building really cheap. Is this a viable candidate, cost effective candidate for renovation and how many kids could we put in there. And so we get into that and we do some initial design work, and we do go through existing buildings. We don't just do new. If we can work with existing stock of buildings, we certainly are going to do that. They can be very cost effective.
All right, so we have a few more questions. Tyler has listed his email in the chat. If there are any questions, feedback about Senator Ernst's childcare efforts or any federal relief programs, there's his email. And also Representative Stechmann, do you have a legislative agenda we can help with this session? I mean, really, one of our main goals for tonight is really just to educate you about our services and what we do across the state. I will say that we are partnering alongside the Iowa Women's Foundation and many other Common Good, which is another advocacy effort across the state. And we will be releasing some ideas and some thoughts on an agenda soon. We really, as an agency though, really stick to just the part of being your support. So as childcare bills are coming up, we would love to hear from you. And just, and I know my local legislators do that often, where they just contact me to ask me some great questions and some thoughts on some bills. We've also helped draft bills and just give some ideas, but that's really our support that we want to be for you as well. You know, we're boots on the ground with those providers, and we definitely are hearing from them daily. So definitely just reach out to us for any support, but we will, yes, send that agenda out and next steps.
Mary, could I interject and make a plug on that legislative agenda?
Yeah,
that the state provides incredible funding opportunities for projects that we see firsthand. A lot of times what communities really lack is they have a lot of enthusiasm. They lack educational background in this particular industry and arena, and even how to get a project started. And so a lot of times if there is a grant application or even potentially loans, we're looking at pro formas and business plans, you know, very kind of boring stuff, and it's very specialized experience to know how to do those things. And a lot of the communities just lack the resources to be able to put those together on their own. So not just project building and bricks and mortar, but just the development of a real business plan, of a feasibility study that shows concretely with data, what is the need, what is the going rate, what are we paying teachers, do we really think that there is a business opportunity available? They lack really the funds or the resources to be able to jumpstart a feasibility study or engage in experts in the field. So if there was any kind of a opportunity for the state to provide some minimal funding for communities to really work on those feasibility studies and that very early on development of a potential project plan, that would be incredible for most small communities.
Definitely, it's a great point. The other piece is workforce. I think we're really seeing the struggle across the state of we hear from several programs, and I know Representative Stechmann, who just asked this question, was on a meeting with me earlier, hearing from programs that cannot expand or even fill to capacity because they cannot hire and recruit and retain the workforce. So that's another topic that we want to keep talking about. We've got some efforts in North Iowa that we're looking at doing, but also ways that we can, number one, make childcare be a strong profession and make people want to enter into this field, but also how can we help support them and also raise those wages and get them some benefits. We really affordable benefits that our childcare programs can offer.
Hey, Mary, this is Melissa. And I just want to add on to what you and Levi are saying. And I think the important thing of this legislative session is that there's not one solution. It's not going to be one bill that's going to fix childcare, that we really have to look at it through a lot of different lenses. So you're hearing Levi say just the setup and figuring out the analysis part. And Mary's talking about the workforce portion of it. And then there's the whole, cost effectiveness for the families being able to afford the quality childcare. So unfortunately, we're not looking at a solution probably in the next couple of years that's going to be a one and done fix, that we're really going to have to look at a lot of different things in childcare over the next couple of years to be able to really address this appropriately.
Mhm.
Melissa, I think that's a fantastic point about being flexible and looking at a very broad spectrum. Some of the other things at a very small level in just the Cedar Valley that the coalition also is having to address is the non-English speaking community and their reluctance to send their kids to childcare centers, entrepreneurship, mentorship, recognizing that early childhood education is a career. We're not just babysitting kids. This is a real career, and there's licensure, and there is, it's an industry where we need to encourage young people to come into that. So how do we do that? How do we encourage young people to get into the business? Because we have a workforce problem where we just don't have enough teachers. I mean, we go into communities where they have the number of kids. We've got we want to start a 50 kid center, and we've got plenty of kids. We can't hire anybody because you can't charge mom and dad enough. But at the same time, you want to be able to charge or pay your employees a reasonable wage, a living wage. And it's really heartbreaking when you have employees that can't even afford to bring their own kids to the center they work at. So a lot of different tentacles that need to be addressed. And so I love your point that there's not one solution that's going to solve all of this.
Definitely. Dan, you have another question, but I'm going to highlight something that one of our regional directors has just sent me, that Red Oak is a community using a former elementary school building. The Iowa Women's Foundation, ECI, and CCR&R were there early on. The center opened in the fall of 2020, and it is in Audubon, and the Children's Nest in the Friendship Home Senior Facility was quite effective. We're seeing that more across the state, where our senior living facilities are wanting to integrate childcare within their services, but also integrate the intergenerational care, which we were a part of project here as well. And that's such a cool, once COVID ends, that will definitely pick right back up. And it's just a cool part service for those folks. Dan, quick question for you. In the regards to renovation projects tend to hit a wall when working through sprinkler system requirements. Those requirements also tend to be uniform or confusing to childcare entrepreneurs. He's shaking his head because he knows this. And can you lend any guidance or notes on this hurdle?
The answer is it just depends. It depends on a lot of things. The size of the number of kids in a room, the number of kids in the whole complex, the total square footage, what's the egress like? I mean, if it's a small to medium center and you have an exit from every classroom directly to the exterior at grade, no steps, no stairs, you've got to just be able to walk out a door in case a fire alarm goes off. You're typically not going to need a full sprinkler system, but it depends. That's where getting with a design professional in your area really is key. So they can look at the system, look at the facility, and understand exactly what's going on. Unfortunately, it's not a blanket answer, but typically, if we think of a center less than 8,000 square feet, if it's all the exits are at grade, again, no steps, and there's a door from each classroom directly to the exterior, then you probably don't need a sprinkler. Probably.
Depends. Brenda Loop has a comment that she was on a session with Childcare Aware, which is our national office in DC, and they were sharing success stories. And in Oregon, she thinks they recently made a change that preschool teachers will be paid the same as kindergarten teachers. One of the workforce issues is pay in Iowa, and that is exactly right. That's the conversation this morning that happened in North Iowa with our folks up there, is talking about that, but also talking about what can we do to make some changes. So Representative Stechmann and Senator Reagan have some great ideas of looking at some benefits and some ideas. So we're excited to further that conversation. Looks like Tyler's attached a document for some bills that was asked by Ashley earlier. Thank you, Tyler. And we'll download that and we can send that out too with our email that heads out to you after this.
Mary, I would be remiss if I didn't have an opportunity to talk all the time, because that's what I do. But to thank Senator Ernst and for Tyler. When we were out there in DC at a speaking opportunity with Representative Finkenauer, Tyler and Senator Ernst's office were extremely accommodating, gave us a ton of time, and were really on this issue. That was, I don't even remember, was that spring?
Yeah, February.
Last winter. I mean, they were really engaged, really wanted to understand, boots on the ground ideas. What legislation could they pass or could they fight for that made a real difference on a day-to-day basis for centers and for home providers? Not, some, just bill that gets passed to look good, but really wanted to know how they could be effective on a day-to-day basis. It was really, really refreshing how engaged, how informed they were, and how willing they were to take suggestions and advice and really listen. It was really refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We did a town hall meeting with Senator Ernst this past summer, and just allowing her to hear from the programs just firsthand and the impacts of COVID. What other questions? I just want to give a quick shout out while we're waiting for additional questions to the planning team for tonight. They're on here: Shirley, Bobby, Esty, Tammy Foley from the Department of Human Services, Melissa Jewell, myself. We kind of just sat back and let these ladies go. So they have really done a great job of planning tonight. Many months of planning, but also just the thought behind what we wanted to come out of tonight. So they did an excellent job. So thank you to those lovely ladies. Any other questions?
Hey, Mary, this is Melissa again. I think one thing that we're going to need to keep in mind over the next 3 to 6 months definitely is COVID's not over, and the impact of COVID is not over. So how flexible are we going to need to be for these providers? If there's not any additional federal money coming down, or if it's delayed so many months, how is that going to impact the availability of our centers and our home providers from being able to stay open? And, if the predictions are true in the next couple weeks, if the holidays are going to have an impact, do a lot of closing just because of exposures. We're going to have to continue to really support our childcare businesses across the whole state, because they will really be struggling over the next couple months. So keep thinking about them.
Oh, definitely. And I would encourage anyone on this call too to reach out to us, and if there are stories that you want to hear, or just connecting with providers, we can help with that as well. We can talk about it over and over, but it's pretty powerful when you hear it directly from the field. All right. Any other questions?
One more plug, Mary. I think if the team could also share out that video that Region 2 put together of providers thanking DHS, and the impact of what the CARES Act money going down through DHS in the form of stipends to them, the difference that it made. I mean, that is a hugely powerful piece. And I think everybody on this call should kind of take a few minutes and listen to that too. And DHS frequently gets, a bit of a bad rap across the state, but these childcare providers were so sincere and so thankful in what DHS has done to them in a very, provided for them over the last few months has been amazing. So
definitely, that's a great idea. We just sent that out last week to our partners at Iowa Department of Human Services, and even Director Garcia received it, and they actually just shared it yesterday on the Iowa DHS Facebook page. But just like Melissa said, we know often, because we work with these wonderful people every single day, they hear the negative, they hear the complaints, but we wanted them to hear all of the hard work that they've done behind the scenes, and even delivering supplies to us and getting us just, the additional funding and the support. So our providers went above and beyond. I think we had around an 8-minute video just of them telling them thank you and how much they appreciated it. So we will get that sent out. All right. Well, once again, we just want to say thank you. I know we're going to have Shirley close up, but I just want to show my appreciation to everyone for coming tonight and just listening to us and hearing our stories. We know this session will look a little different, but just know that we will be here to support you and also support our childcare providers as we move forward. So Shirley, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Shirley Urick, and I'm with Childcare Resource and Referral of Southwest Iowa. We would just like to thank you all for coming this evening and listening to us. And we'd also like to thank you for everything that you do for the Iowa children. After this session, you will be receiving an email with all the information that we've given you tonight. Again, we just thank you, and please feel free to reach out to our directors. They have a lot of knowledge on Iowa childcare, and they would love to answer your questions. So please let us be your childcare answers. Have a good night, everyone.